Everybody says we want equality for women. I believe that women have much more to give and much more experience, and they're much more qualified to lead because of many things. Because women, the experience of women as a mother and as a as a person who has been suffering for so oppressed for so long, she knows the meaning of justice. A mother knows the meaning of justice. That's why I feel if women are to hold the reins of power in this world, our world would be much better.
Rima Nasir Tarazi, we are so delighted to have you with us on Tarwida. أهلا وسهلا.
Thank you very much. I'm so happy to meet you and to be with you too.
You know, personally, this is very exciting for me because I used to sing your songs in my school's choir. I was in the Ahliya School for Girls in Amman. And I remember very vividly in 2009, after the invasion of Gaza, the school organized a beautiful concert, and it was all your songs. And until today, we always remember, me and my sisters, a couple of your songs that really left a mark on us. So you left your impact even without you knowing.
I'm so happy to hear that. Yes, it was with Samia Ghannoum, wasn't it?
With Samia Ghannoum, yes.
She was wonderful. Yeah, she's a wonderful musician. Yeah,
but aside from that, we are very, very excited to have you with us because you are older than occupation. And that speaks volumes, you know. You were born in 1932, which means that you've witnessed it all. You've witnessed it from the 1936 revolution, World War II, up until, unfortunately, the genocide in Gaza today. And this is very important for us, and we feel like you're a walking archive, you know, and we want to learn from your wealth of knowledge.
Right. I think at my age, I feel very fortunate and yet maybe sad to have gone through so much in my life. I've seen it all, as you said. I've seen it all. I've seen the good things. I've seen the bad things. I've seen the cruelties. But I must say that my experience in life and my witnessing in life is about so much beauty and dedication I've seen in my people, my family, my colleagues. There is so much compassion, so much sacrifice that it is beautiful. And this sometimes makes me wonder, how come human beings can be so great, so spiritual, so giving, and so on, and at the same time they can go to the depths of cruelty and brutality that we are witnessing now. But I tell you something, from my experience, I still feel that because of this dedication of the human beings, and which we are witnessing now everywhere, I feel eventually beauty, humanity will prevail. That's why it's a message I'd like to give to all the young generations. Don't despair, because you are giving us hope. Your dedication to truth, to beauty, to humanity is going to prevail. I assure you. I assure you, one day it will prevail. And we will redeem the earth from the catastrophes that are awaiting us if we don't do anything about it.
Mm-mm. And it's very reassuring to hear that from you, you know, because you've seen it all and you still have this hope and you still believe that humans can be better than what we, for example, my generation has witnessed. But if we want to go back to the beginnings, do you remember when you started finding interest in music? Like, was it a gradual interest? Was it a one moment thing?
Well, I started learning piano when I was 7 years old in Birzeit in school with Salvador Anita. He was one of the foremost musicians in Palestine. And I was very fortunate to have him as a teacher because he introduced me. And to us, he was an icon, a role model. We always... we were so fascinated by his playing and his musicality and so on. And this was how I was introduced basically to music. That's when I started. And I started playing the piano, and I always did well. And I mean, all through. And I started composing more when I was at the age of 11, I remember.
Wow.
And yeah, and simple music and so on. It's very interesting that somehow music was always linked to me with Palestine. I don't know why. We were when we were at school, we always learned these national songs, and these songs really related to our hopes, that we were hoping that through Arab unity, through our Renaissance, we're going to you get somewhere. And the first compositions were music I set to the words of famous poets or renowned poets.
So it started early on. But you did mention Birzeit a lot. So if we want to also go back to how your time was there, especially that, for those of you who are listening and don't know, Birzeit University originally started off as a school, and the school was, it belonged to your family, Rima. So tell us more about you studying there and how the whole, how the whole atmosphere was, and the story behind the school.
Yes, yes, it is really. This is where the story of witnessing dedication started. Really, it is the story of my aunt. My aunt actually was approached by her teacher, Ratib Shair, who was Lebanese, and who had gone to the United States to study. And she sent her a letter. She told her, Nabiha, why don't you come with me to Lebanon and let's start a school there? And my aunt told her, why start a school there? Let's start it in here, in Palestine, in Birzeit. Because we had the family home. My grandfather was a clergyman, and he had 8 daughters and 1 son. They're a very big family. So he had this big house. And he was, as a preacher, as a priest, he was living in various places. So most of the time, the house was empty. I mean, they didn't live there all the time. So she told her, let's start the school here. And sure enough, they started the school there. And 6 years later, Ratiba Air went to Bethlehem and started another school. And the school remained, with the family. And my father was helping her, my aunts, all the family was involved.
In 1948, you were studying in Beirut, and that's when the Nakba happened. So I don't know, how do you remember that period of time? Because it must have been difficult hearing the news, especially that there wasn't a lot of technology back then or social media while you were away.
Yeah. Well, the Nakba took place. I left Jerusalem in 1947 in summer to go to college, and in November, the partition scheme was announced, and it was everybody, all the university students, all Beirut was up and demonstrating against the partition scheme, and of course all the news were all over. And I remember I forgot to send you the letter I told you about.
Yeah.
I remember a friend of mine and I sat and wrote a letter, and telling everybody now it's time for us not to take care of luxuries. We have to be, think of what's happening in Palestine. And on the other hand, the interesting thing, we were both of us 15 years of age. So the interesting thing was that at the end we say, oh, you Arabs, if you are not ready for the battle against the Zionists, we hope you'll take your time. But if you are ready, we will be very happy to that you should. So I thought it was the wisdom of young people. I never realized that at this age you can be so wise. That anyway. And so and at the time in Beirut, everybody was welcoming the refugees, and we were helping the refugees who came to Lebanon, and so on. So we were stuck in Beirut for the whole year. We couldn't come back home. Then we came back home in summer, and in summer we discovered that Jerusalem was gone and everything was gone, and the story of our life,
You also traveled to Paris to continue your education in music.
Yes, yes.
And this made me wonder, whether society back then was acceptable of young women to travel and study abroad. Was it normalized, or were your parents an exception? Were there any challenges?
I must say, I was fortunate to live in a family who were very progressive and very much education oriented. I mean, to them, education was very important, but it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't. It was accepted at the time, but it
Yeah.
wasn't. And it wasn't common, but it was accepted that the women went and got their education and so on. And it depends on the families, but we were the fortunate families who were able to do that. So I studied, yes, I studied for a year and a half in France music, and I was hoping to continue, but I had to come back because my aunt became very, very sick, and she was on her deathbed, and she was asking for me. I was, the eldest daughter of my father, the only child, the only son of the family, and she said, bring Rima back, bring Rima. So I came back, and somehow when I came back, I decided I helped in the school. I taught for a year and a half after she died. She died, a few months after I came. And I helped with the school, teaching music, activities, drama, and so on. And then somehow I decided that no, to be a musician, a full-time musician, it's demanding to become a musician full-time. So I decided I'll take my BA, and sure enough, I went on to take my BA, which was it was great years of my life in AB. And then I went back to Birzeit and I started teaching again Birzeit music and I had studied psychology and Arabic, and so I was teaching and I was very involved in activities in drama. I was very interested in drama, so we had lots of. Birzeit was very keen on introducing all kinds of extracurricular activities, so I was involved in that. Then 2 years later, I taught 2 years in Birzeit, and then I got married and went to Canada. Yeah.
And during the Nakba in 1967, you joined Inaash Al Usra, which is a Palestinian organization, and you taught music to child refugees coming from Latroun. So, how was it like
Right.
teaching kids who had just fled war and seeking refuge
Yeah,
in Ramallah?
yeah. Music. I believe so much in the value of music, the value of music as an educational and psychological tool. It teaches so much to children, and it's cathartic for children, and it makes them express themselves in a nice way and in a harmonious way. So it was a pleasure teaching the children at the time. The first thing I did when I joined Inaash Al Usra, and we had this. It was a KG for children. So for the children of the Latroun area who were dispersed and so on. So the first thing was that I asked for was to get a piano and start teaching them music. So I started teaching them songs. And eventually I started writing songs for children also later on.
And in these situations, people would tell you food, water, and aid, healthcare is so much more important than all these cultural activities, because there are priorities. If we go to Maslow's pyramid, we start off with the basic needs, and then we kind of like elevate to other needs. What do you think of this, idea or opinion?
Yeah, of course, I don't believe. I believe music and all arts are necessities in education. Very important. When we started the conservatory of the Edward Said National Conservatory of Music in 1993, that's what people told us. I mean, you're starting a conservatory. People have to eat food. It's not time for it. I told them, music is as important as food. I think, as I told you, the educational value, especially, I think one of the most important features of music is that it teaches people to work together, to be harmonious. and to know that beauty comes out of harmony, out of cooperation, out of discipline. So many when you play in an orchestra or sing in a choir, you know that any small mistake you make affects the whole performance. So this way, you know that you have to be so much in control and so much in harmony with others. That's why I think music is very important. Yeah. I'm very happy to say that yeah, I mean, we were not mistaken because now music is flourishing in Palestine. And it's wonderful to see how many activities, how many orchestras, how many conservatories have opened. And it's really wonderful, great.
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of the, institutions you were involved in included family members, whether, Tanya, who is your sister-in-law, she sings with you, or other also members from the Baramki family. And it's very, very obvious that you're a family-oriented person, which is something beautiful. Um, but also sometimes, working with family could bring some tensions, because you'll be, I don't know, you'll be eating lunch with them and then you'll have to work together. And if you have to criticize each other, it might kind of like create some tension. So did you not like go through any of these like problems? Do you have interesting memories, funny memories that you can remember?
To start with, I must mention that, speaking of Tanya, Tanya was a very important part of my life, my music compositions. Every time I used to compose a song, I would go to her and see what she thought of it, and she'd sing it, and we. I remember when I wrote a song after my cousin Kamal Nasser was assassinated in Beirut. He had written a song called الوصية الأخيرة, the last testimony, and he's saying, it's talking to his son, virtual son, if you hear of my death, please, so on, so on. And when Tanya and I were singing it, when she was singing it, and we were crying while we were playing it, so it's one of the memories I have of Tanya in these songs and in all my other songs, of course. As far as family members, this is interesting. Nabil, my son, is fond of telling his wife, "Come, come, I want to show you the place where I used to be tortured." he he tell her I would take him in the stroller to the Society of Inaash Al Usra. I tell him I have a meeting of 5 minutes only. I'll come back, and he exaggerates and says, "You would leave me out for an hour."
Oh no.
I always deny that.
Yes, I believe you. I believe you. But then, even if it's true, it's Fida Palestine. It's okay.
It was fun. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I must say that my husband Aton, was a neurosurgeon, and he was a very, very busy man, and I mean, he started neurosurgery in Palestine. He was the only neurosurgeon in Palestine. So, in spite of that, I must admit that he encouraged me. He never stood in my way of joining the society. Although sometimes, he would sit and conspire with one of the other members. Rima is meeting, and make fun. But on the other hand, no, he really encouraged me. He never stood in my way of being involved. Very involved. I was very involved, really.
Amazing. We need more husbands like him.
Yeah, yeah, right.
There was a song that you wrote, "ولادي رحلوا عني." My
Yes,
sons left me. I really, really liked it, and I was listening to it, and I thought these were your kids because you talk about Ghassan and then Wa'il and then Naeem. You're saying they all left me. They all left me. So when I asked you, are they your kids? You told me, no, no, they're not my kids. They are actual poets and cultural activists from Palestine. So tell us more about this
yes,
this
yeah.
song. How
This,
did it?
yes.
How were you inspired to write it?
Yeah, I was. It was funny. All my children actually were out. They were already in universities, And I was in the kitchen. I remember, it's funny, I remember I was in the kitchen. Suddenly I felt so homesick for them. And I started thinking of this song and I started saying, the ولادي راحوا ولادي رحلوا عني. And then I said I'd better use the names of, famous martyrs. So I used the name of وائل زعيتر, عز الدين القلق, كمال ناصر, غسان كنفاني, and Naeem Khadir. These are the 5 people I mentioned. And then the last one I said, the آخر العرود, I didn't mention the name. It can be anybody. So there are so many of them. Yeah, so yeah, this is a favorite song of mine, because
And
it
they
is very
all
sad.
passed away outside Palestine, right?
All these were assassinated outside Palestine. Yeah, they
Assassinated
were
outside
assassinated.
Palestine.
Well, Zaitar was assassinated in. He's a writer. He was assassinated in Rome. Ghassan Kanafani, of course, in Lebanon. Kamal Nasser in Lebanon, and Naeem Khadir, I think in Cyprus. I think I can't remember where, and Azzeddin Qalaq in France. You see, Israelis are the most celebrated people for assassinating people outside. And this is all legal, okay. It's all legal in the world opinion. I mean, it's
ridiculous.
anyway.
But you're also very generous in sharing your family history and your family heritage with other people because you donated the family photos to the Palestinian Museum.
Yes.
Tell us more about that
Right.
project. How did you think of it? Which pictures did you choose?
I chose the very old, the pictures of not my direct family, my present family. The pictures of my aunts and my father, in the 20s and the 30s. I thought the older pictures are more interesting, or in the 40s. But nowadays, people take so many photos that you don't have to.
It lost value. I totally agree. It lost value.
Yeah. So I have, there are iconic pictures of my grandfather and my grandmother and my aunt Nabia, and that this is and you had famous photographers. I think his name was Trevor Kian, one of the older ones. So this is a very interesting photo.
But you're very generous, Yani, for also giving all of that knowledge and information, and it's precious.
Well, I tell you the truth. I love people. I love my people, and I love human beings. I mean, I feel the compassion that one feels for humanity is makes life meaningful. I mean, you can't isolate yourself from society. Now I'm isolated because I'm unable to move a lot and so on. But thank God for the Zoom, for the WhatsApp, for my friends who come and visit and so on. But I somehow I love people on the whole. So it's I have lots
Me
of
too.
friends
I
all
mean,
over.
I studied anthropology because I'm so amazed by human beings. And as you said, like the same human who creates this beauty creates also these bombs. And this discrepancy to me is very annoying, but at the same time, it kind of like pushes me to want to know more about like this creature.
This is yes, very very interesting. Yeah, this is very interesting. You wonder sometimes whether people are sick or whether we all have it in us to be like that. We all have it in us to be good, and do we have demons in us, and we have angels and demons? I don't know, but no doubt, no doubt, something else. I must say, in my long years, you struggle to fight weaknesses in you all the time. I mean, as a young person, there are things maybe you don't pay attention to. As you grow older, you grow wiser, you grow more tolerant, you grow more accepting of others. So there are things so a human being is always fighting certain battles within himself. I mean, it's not something easy actually to be able to sacrifice so much. When you think the people who are sacrificing so much, they must, go through hell to be able to get to this level of
Of
giving their
course.
lives for the sake of country.
Mhm,
So,
mhm,
yeah. But as I say, I think the solidarity one is feeling now, especially at the time when there is the peak of genocide, the peak of cruelty we are witnessing. This is something unprecedented. No, nobody can fathom what's happening, really. But this is going to be redeemed by the great solidarity we're feeling all through in all
mm,
the peoples of the world. And I hope people will eventually overcome and will prevail, and
mm,
not those in power who are, buying people off with their money or with their power
yeah.
or something like that.
And
Yeah.
along these lines, it's often said that music bridges people from different cultures, and it's a form of unity, and it
Exactly.
trespasses borders. A lot of actually
Right.
initiatives have tried to do peace building through music. What do you think of this attempt?
Well, I believe music definitely brings people together and brings cultures together, and no doubt. But peace building depends now, depends. For example, if you're under occupation, it is a different thing. You cannot peace build through music. You cannot, for
Mm,
example, you can't have an orchestra that has Israelis who are at the checkpoints,
mm,
killing children and beating and imprisoning people, and you come and play with the music in an orchestra. This is something that is, there are limits to how much music can do, but music definitely brings people together and brings cultures together. I remember something very interesting, by the way. I
mm,
remember uh, Daniel Barenboim was a friend of ours. He was a friend of Edward Said, and he at the time you know uh, he was in solidarity with the Palestinians and so on, and it was very nice, and we got to know him. And this started the East-West Divan Orchestra.
mhm,
It was at the beginning of the peace process. So
mhm,
they had Palestinians and Arabs, more Arabs than Palestinians. Anyway, of course, we had reservations about that. We didn't approve of that. But the interesting thing is when I went to London, he was performing, and I went to see him. I went to see the performance in the proms. It was a very nice performance. And the BBC people came to interview me and interview him. They were interviewing me.
mm,
And they saw me and they said something. Oh, Mrs. Tarazi, you're from Palestine. What do you think of the East West Divide? I told them, I think, I believe what Maestro, actually, it was Maestro Berman who said this all the time: equality, liberty, and then fraternity, in that order. I believe in that. Once we have equality, once we have liberty, then we can have fraternity. You can't
mhm,
have
mhm,
fraternity without having all the others. As long as I'm not equal with them, as long as I am discriminated against, I can't have equality with them. I can't
mhm.
have fraternity. I can't
True,
have fraternity. So
true.
this is an interesting, yeah.
The structural
So
violence first needs to be, resolved, and then we can talk about all of these,
right, right,
cultural
right.
cultural
Yeah, yeah,
bridging activities.
yeah. But music in itself, you can get you introduced to all kinds of music in of the various cultures, and it brings people together. It's different. But when it comes to, you know, normalization with with people who are discriminating against you and oppressing you, it is different.
Mhm, mhm. And of course, يعني, knowing you and listening to the music, it's not surprising at all to know that you were a very important founding member of the Edward Said Conservatoire, and you talked about it briefly. But tell us more about how you started, and you had the limited resources from what I understood. So what kept you
Yeah,
going?
yeah. Well, actually, it was started by the welfare association asked me to, you know, to get a group of people and make a study about the situation of music in Palestine. So I got the five musicians whom I knew, at the time. It was Salwa Tabri, Nadia Mikhail, Amin Nasir, and Suhair Khouri, and myself. We sat and discussed. And we thought, okay, we'll get somebody to make a study of the music situation in Palestine. So we commissioned a young man to do that. And sure enough, he went around. They paid us. We paid money for. It was a paid job for him. After a month or 2, 3 months, he came with a few studies. We were sitting at home. I told them, Ya Jama'ah, what do you mean? I mean, we're spending money on study. We know there is no music in schools. The only way to have music, to make music flourish and to advance promote music, is to start a serious music school. So we all agreed on that, and immediately we went to Birzeit University. What about you? Working under your auspices, because if you wanted to start a new project, you had to take permission from the Israelis and so on. We didn't want to go through that. So we became part of, sort of an offshoot of Birzeit University Board of Trustees. So we started. We didn't have any money, of course. They gave us, said, we can't give you any money. We'll give you the premises. They gave us the premise, a small premise. And the teachers who were Salwa Tabri and Nadia Mikhail, basically, and Amin Nasir, got their students in the conservatory, and the students paid, a part of the thing to them and part to the conservatory. That's how we started, and then immediately we started fundraising for the, and immediately we got very good responses from friends and people all
So
over.
it's an amazing
And
initiative, very, very important initiative.
It was really wonderful. When I think of it, I admire some of the teachers who had to go through so much to come or to go and give courses, because we had curfews all along and we had so many problems. I remember one of the teachers had to go. He wanted to go to Jerusalem, to had to cross borders and by most illegal means to be able to go to Jerusalem and risk the problem of being arrested. I mean, the teachers were also dedicated, and everybody was dedicated. So it was a beautiful.
And it focuses on classical music.
No, both classical and Arabic. This is another thing I forgot. We started by immediately. The first thing was to teach both Arabic and music and classical music. So we got a teacher for Arabic music who was very good, and then we started. The first premise was in Ramallah. Then we started a premise in Jerusalem, and then we started the premise in Bethlehem, and then in Nablus.
Amazing.
Later on in Gaza, we took over it was for the Qatan Foundation. They gave it to us anyway. But so we had 5 premises, and then we had outreach programs and so on. It was flourishing quite a bit.
But in general, like classical and Arabic, both of them are, and I've seen the productions of the Conservatoire, they're amazing. But they're serious, they're very serious, they're obviously nationalistic. And now, music has become more like entertaining, and there's a lot of different genres, even the Palestinian music. How do you feel about that? Like this shift or the evolution of music?
I feel any music, anything well done is beautiful. It's okay. I'm not fanatic about this. I don't. There are certain kinds of music I don't like, but it doesn't matter. I mean, some people like them. So I'm not a jazz fan, for example. But so what? I mean, jazz can be beautiful. I'm not an expert in Arabic music, but it can be beautiful. And so I think any kind of music is great. Anything that is well done, and if it's well performed, it is beautiful, and and people have to express themselves the way they like. Music is a way of expression, so give them the freedom to express themselves the way they like.
And going back to you being very generous, I was very happy to learn about your book, because you compiled all your songs and all the music sheets in one place for anyone who would like to play your songs. So that made me feel like you have a very, very close connection to your audience. It's not just them listening to you. No, you want them to play along, you want them to sing along, and even create their own music through, for example, the conservatoire. So tell us more about that book and how you got that idea, and what it took for you to compile all your work in the book.
Well, yeah, that took some time. It was at a time when I was starting to. I was very involved in all these social activities, and I started slowing down. When I was getting closer to my late 80s. So I thought, it was time to compile my music and write. Some of my music was written already. The old music that was, as I told you, the music that I did when I was before. It was performed and so on. The music by Kamal. Wrote lots of music for Kamal Nasir and my cousin, and for Brahim Tuqan, Fatba Tuqan, Mahmoud Darwish, and Abu Qasim al-Shabi, and Omar Abu Risha, one of the first. So this was all written, but then my other music, I compiled it, and I was helped by one of the teachers of the conservatory, Bettina Zbedi. She's German, married to an Arab, the teacher, and she's wonderful. She really helped me. She was the one, she used the computer, and
Yeah.
she was the one really to edit the whole thing for me, because it's a big job. So it took us 3 years to write, and my children
Wow.
really were. My children were the ones to really encourage me a lot. They encouraged me. They urged me to do that. I thought, well, I might as well.
Yeah. What's your favorite song that you've written?
It's difficult to tell. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. So, I have many favorites, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know. One of my favorite songs that makes me very, very sad is a song I wrote in memory of two young men who were killed at the same time. The Hamouri boys. She was a woman. They were living in Jerusalem, and when we went to visit her, we told her what happened. She said, I was sitting, and my children said, "We're going." I told them, "Where are you going?" They said, "رايحين عبلاد الله الواسعة." They just left home, and they were throwing stones at the army jeeps that were crossing that street, and both of them were shot at the same time. They were killed at the same time. One was 19 and one was 21. And the way, I mean, I was so touched by this story that, this is one of my, it makes me be very sad when I sing this song. Anyway, when
What is
Tanya
it
sings it,
called?
of course. اغفري لنا يا أماه. Forgive us, mother. اغفري لنا يا أماه. فلم نكن نسعى إلى الموت بل إلى الحياة الحرة الكريمة.
And that's a recurrent theme in your songs, that you want whoever is listening to you to know that Palestinians want to live. Okay, we fight, we throw stones, we do all of that, but it is because we want to live, not because we want to die. And I found that
Right,
very, very
right,
inspiring.
right. This is very true. I always end the song with a note of hope, because all these, all the pains and suffering will end up by a hopeful note, no doubt. Yes, you're right. Life is very important to us. We're not, we're not a culture of death. Not a bit, not a bit.
Not
But
at
we
all.
feel that life with dignity is very important. Life with dignity and liberty.
Um, Rima, you've held very important leadership roles in several women's associations like the YWCA, where you served as president, and the Palestinian General Union of Women. Why was it important for you to focus on promoting women's roles in Palestinian society?
For a while, this was the major uh, struggle for women for equality and promoting women. But I believe in all societies. I'm not partial only to women's societies, but women's societies have been the more more active in social work than any other society. Mostly were women who were either not working women, because at the time they were not working women. At the time, not many people were working. Nowadays, it is very difficult to find women's societies with people dedicated to give their time to voluntary work, because most women are working now. So it is more professional now. But at the time, anybody who felt that we have time, we have to go and offer. Because I believe in promoting women's rights and giving. As a matter of fact, I believe personally, I believe that women. Everybody says we want equality for women. I believe that women have much more to give and much more experience, and they're much more qualified to lead because of many things. Because women, the experience of women as a mother and as a as a person who has been suffering for so oppressed for so long, she knows the meaning of justice. A mother knows the meaning of justice. She knows in her family, she knows if she is partial to one son, there is fights. There is a fight to go on. She knows that she has to be as impartial as possible. So I think this point in a woman's life is very important, and also because she has been oppressed, she knows the meaning of being having equality. So it is. That's why I feel if women are to hold the reins of power in this world, our world would be much better. Unless they try to emulate men like Margaret Thatcher and Golda Meir and these horrible women.
I totally agree. أنا والله I would vote for you to be the next president. I think I think someone like you would have, done a great job. And you've been very close to Samiha Khalil, who ran against
Yes.
Yasser Arafat. I mean,
Yeah.
we really need those role models. Us as young women, we really need to see those role models, because I totally agree. Like, I think men have ruled for far too long, and we've seen the results. I think it's time for women to, show us what they've got.
Samiha Khalil was a special woman in my life. I mean, she is not only a role model, she's a leader, she's an icon, and she remains, in our memory forever. Really, she's a wonderful woman.
She
In
is.
spite of her in spite of her leadership and so on, I always remember her with a smile and a laugh, because she has a great sense of humor. In spite of everything, and all my colleagues and all the societies were wonderful. I remember them. Many of them have passed away, and I remember them with so much love and regret. But,
And you mentioned in
yeah.
one of your interviews that women were always, I don't know if always, but like a lot of times, the front lines in a lot of protests and a lot of like civil disobedience.
Yes, yes.
And I was wondering, why was that? Is it because the soldiers do not treat you as they would have the men?
Yes, we felt that we were protecting the men, because men were being imprisoned right and left, and we felt as women we can, we are more immune. But lately, it's nobody's immune with the Israelis. But it was at the time, yeah. We were for a while. The women's movement was the one that was protesting and holding sit-ins and all kinds of things. Later on, the student movement became very strong, and then it became everybody and so on.
Yeah. One of your other songs that I also liked is Ilamata, Until When. Um, It says, "Until when must our children be killed? Until when? Until when must our children be imprisoned? Until when?" And it's been almost 20 years since you've recorded that song. And the killing, unfortunately, is getting even fiercer. And we're still asking ourselves the same question. So I don't know, how does it make you feel that we're still asking the same question? You know, again, going back to where we started, you've witnessed all this evolution of history in Palestine, and we're still asking ourselves the same question, but maybe the factors have changed. I don't know how it makes you feel.
I feel very, very sad, and yet that's what I was trying to tell you. In spite of the sorrow, the deep sorrow, I refuse. I feel ashamed to despair. I feel criminal to despair because of the people who are sacrificing themselves, and I have the luxury to despair. No, no. I feel that eventually humanity will prevail, eventually. When I see all this solidarity movement all around, you know, everywhere, people from all walks of life, all religions, and this is the nice thing, I'm so happy to hear, people of all religions, of all faiths, Jewish people are talking much more vehemently against the occupation, against Zionism than any other people. So this gives me hope. This gives me hope, and this makes me, I will not give up. And I'm very sad, but I will not give up. I refuse to give up. I refuse to give in to my sorrow. No, I refuse to give in to my sorrow.
And you know, this, what you're saying is actually very, very important, because we know that, I know that also your husband is from Gaza, and you've seen, you know, what's happened to his family, and they lost their house. So it's also very, very hard for you, I'm sure, because you've been to Gaza and you visited your husband's family there.
Of course.
Thank you so much, Rima. Do you have anything else you'd like to share? You'd like to tell us, younger generation?
I want to keep insisting that you should not lose hope. Never lose hope, because I think the worst enemy to any people is despair and giving up. We should not give up. And I know, because as I told you, I've seen it all. I've seen people fall and rise again and fall and rise again. And humanity has a way of overcoming all this eventually. Eventually. The only danger now we have is the artificial intelligence, the AI. This is
That's more
the next
dangerous than
danger.
Israel. Oh my God! Imagine Israel and AI at the same time. That's
Oh my
a nightmare.
My God. So, yeah, this is my message to everybody. And then
Yeah.
thank you so much. Lovely talking to you, Habibti.
Thank you,
Lovely
Rima.
to
You
you.
gave me a lot of
Yeah.
hope myself, and I repeat that I would vote for you for president. Think about it.
In the afterlife.
لا لا بعيد الشر. Thank you so much.
Habibti. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Tarwida, a podcast dedicated to bringing you the best of Palestinian arts and culture. For more information, follow us on Instagram, and don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.